60 Minutes has been under fire for some of the reporting that they've done. The most notable one, of course, is the Benghazi story, where they talked to someone, a employee for a private contractor, who said he was there and he saw everything. Well, it turns out he wasn't there at all, and 60 Minutes was criticized for that. And recently they were talking about renewable energy, and their coverage of that was less than stellar. Let's take a look.
About a decade ago, the smart people who funded the internet turned their attention to the energy sector, rallying tech engineers to invent ways to get us off fossil fuels, devise powerful solar panels, clean cars, and futuristic batteries. The idea got a catchy name, clean tech. Silicon Valley got Washington excited about it. President Bush was an early supporter, but the federal purse strings truly loosened under President Obama. Hoping to create innovation and jobs, he committed north of $100 billion in loans, grants, and tax breaks to clean tech. But instead of breakthroughs, the sector suffered a string of expensive, tax-funded flops. Suddenly, clean tech was a dirty word.
Now, that segment was very, very critical of the government's investment in renewable energy and also Silicon Valley's investment in renewable energy. It seemed as though they kept mixing the two together, which is not the right way to cover the story. And also, what they failed to mention is that the government has had a 97% success rate in its investments in renewable energy. And we're not talking about something that we don't need. This is something that we desperately need. I don't even think that we have a choice when it comes to investing in renewable energy. So to have a piece like this that's so critical of the government investing in these programs, I think is very irresponsible when it comes to 60 Minutes. Now, that's just one criticism of the way that they covered that story, but I want to bring the panel in and I want to see what you guys think about it as well. Peter, what do you think is going on with 60 Minutes right now? They've had a number of questionable pieces, and this is just one of them.
Well, let me just, sorry, I was saying, but I totally agree with you on the need for clean tech, and that's where the future is going to go. But in a way, paradoxically, it's actually saying something I think really good about 60 Minutes, which is we're discussing their screw-ups, and there are not that many screw-ups. So let's say we looked at Fox News, and they had a bias story where they got all their facts wrong, right? Well, that's just another day at the office for them, right?
Right, that's true.
So the only reason we're talking about 60 Minutes is because we hold them, and we expect them at a very high standard. So they're human, they screwed up. I think it was a weak story. They didn't check things out. Now, I don't know if there's a greater agenda going on there. We would have to see if they sort of keep on this tack of having sort of corporate loving stories that ignore convenient facts that are easy out there for people to look at.
Chris Ryan, they focus a lot on Solyndra in the segment, and I love that Republican talking point, like, oh, we got to stop investing, wasting our government taxpayer dollars on renewable energy. Look at Solyndra. And it's like they have that one example of something that failed, and they refuse to look at all of these successes. And so what do you think the future holds for renewable energy? I mean, this is a really, really important topic. We have to invest in it, as I mentioned earlier. And do you think that pieces like this will drive public opinion against renewable energy?
Yeah, pieces like this and the oil companies that fund pieces like this. And it's interesting, Peter mentioned Fox News. I read somewhere that the new head of, I think it's the head of the 60 Minutes, just came over from Fox News. Right? So like the boss of 60 Minutes was working for Fox News from the beginning, and within the last year or so, it's transferred over to 60 Minutes. So there may be some very explicit work going on behind the scenes. But what else wasn't, they talked about Solyndra, which is the deadest of the dead horses they're still beating. 2.5
years ago, the Solyndra situation happened.
Right,
like
and it's one failure, as you said, 97% were successes, right? So that's pretty good. But you know what they didn't mention in that piece? Climate change.
Right. They did not mention climate change. And they also touched on Tesla Motors, just a little mention of Tesla Motors. Oh, by the way, Tesla kind of rocks, but not a big deal. Let's move on. Nothing to see here.
60 Minutes is a bunch of really old farts at this point. I mean,
I still like 60 Minutes.
I do too. I love 60 Minutes.
A lot of crypt keepers. You're right. I mean, God bless
that one guy's face is like one of those dogs, you know. And I'm old, so I can say this, okay? But it's like, I don't know if you saw the thing on Kim.com, The guy in New Zealand who started the mega upload thing, all the file sharing.
Right.
Well, they just did a thing about him, and Vice TV did a thing about him. And I encourage people to look at the two. In fact, Kim.com tweeted something about it. It was like, 60 Minutes, $30 million budget plus an old fart equals bullshit. Vice, $10,000 budget plus a cool kid equals truth. Yeah. So I think shows like this, The Young Turks, what we're seeing is that keeping it low to the ground, low budget, younger, at least mentally, more open-minded, is getting closer to the truth that exists these days. These old institutions, they're missing the boat. Things are changing too fast. There's
a reason why younger people are cord cutters, right? They're no longer watching television. They're certainly not paying for cable. They're relying on new media to get their information, which has its upsides and its downsides, right? But the irresponsible nature of some of these reports scares me because it does have some influence on public opinion. And I don't want Americans to think, hey, you know what? We need to focus more on natural gas. Natural gas is not going to solve our problem, okay?
Have you had Josh Fox on?
We have not had Josh. I don't think so, no.
He did Gasland and Gasland 2. He's one of the main voices against fracking. Amazing stuff. Yeah, the fracking is not going to solve anything except pollute the rivers and the lakes.
And more earthquakes in Oklahoma.
Yeah,
what?
Exactly.
Yeah, I know. It's definitely scary stuff.